So, explaining the origin of the diversity of life, accepted today, present day biologists, is known as the evolutionary theory. Now, we've gone over those key scientists, economists that contributed to the theory of evolution. And what I'm going to teach you is what we know today to be evolutionary theory. And this is Darwinism. Darwin gave us so many different ideas for this theory. That he proposed in his best-known book on the origin of species by means of natural selection. He actually didn't coin the word he actually didn't use the phrase survival of the fittest. We always use that phrase to explain Darwinism. In modern times, survival of the fittest. He actually didn't use that phrase until later. So the original 1859 published Origin of Species, you won't find survival of the fittest in there, but that's what he's explaining in his book. So who is Darwin? Darwin was born more than 200 years ago. He actually was a medical doctor, or on the path to become a medical doctor, and he quit. He quit medical school. He found medicine quite boring. And he was actually horrified during his studies because they would perform surgery on patients at his medical school without anesthesia. So he found that to be a career that he didn't want to be a part of. But he was still a scientist at heart. So he began a sea voyage at the age of 22. 22? That's so young. On the HMS Beagle. So the ship that he performed his voyage on, where he collected a lot of his different fossils and ideas for his theory of evolution on the origin of species. Fossils helped frame his theory of evolution. He collected thousands of specimens and fossils on his voyage on the HMS Beagle, kept detailed journals. This is observational science at its finest that I taught you guys at the very beginning of the semester. And he carefully noted characteristics for organisms that made them well suited to diverse environments. We can actually see all the different diverse environments that he visited on his voyage, many different species that he's going to encounter. What I really want to focus on Galapagos Islands that he collected a lot of his different data points on that contributed to the origin of species. So what Darwin ended up observing was that geographic proximity is a better predictor of relationships among organisms and similarity of environment. So what do I mean by geographic proximity, and why is that a better predictor of organisms being related to each other than the similarity of environment? Okay, so check it. In this image, I have different zones. So over here, it looks like I have a polar and subpolar zones. That's kind of shown in this aqua color. I have temperate zones shown in a light green color. I have subtropical zones shown in a yellow color. And then finally, I have tropical zones shown in that peach coral color. These are all different types of weather that these zones are going to experience on the planet. So that's what that's telling me. These zones is that they are similar in environment to each other. They have a similar color. They are similar in environment. So here I went ahead and circled down here this temperate region of South America, that light green temperate region right here. And here's another circle that's showing you a coastal region of South America. But in this coastal region here, it's actually a tropical zone. So it's a different type of environment. In this circle over here, I went ahead and circled a temperate area of Europe. So what Darwin found was that these organisms found here and here, these two coastal areas of South America, any species living here were going to be more similar to each other than species here. So why is that? If I focus on this black circle here, here I have a temperate area, That's a temperate zone, that light green. If I compare it to another light green, like here in Europe, that's also similarity of environment, but they're far away from each other. That's not geographically, that's not showing geographic proximity to each other. But here, South America, this is very close to this area. And though they're different zones, over here I have tropical, over here I have temperate, though they're different environments, the species are closer to each other, geographically closer, so they're going to be related, more likely related to each other. That's what Darwin found in his evidence, his observations, and his fossils, and that is very much the case. If you think about it, organisms didn't always have airplanes to take them from one region to another. And so if they're located within a closer spot to each other, the more likely that they are going to have relatives in that same area. So that's what that statement is saying. That's what Darwin observed during his journey on the HMS Beagle. Darwin was particularly intrigued by geographic distribution of organisms on the Galapagos Islands. What's great about the Galapagos Islands is that here is a picture of them. Each island had its own distinct variety of organisms. So here in the slide, I'm highlighting the tortoise. So each island show its own distinct variety of the giant tortoise. When observed, here's a thick dome shell tortoise. It has a very short neck as well. That was a characteristic found on one island. That island tend to have more dense vegetation. Here I see lots of grass that tortoise is taking a snack on. Over here on another island that maybe didn't have as dense vegetation, I saw saddleback shells. These tortoises also had very long arched necks, which allowed for them to kind of reach higher areas for food sources. Drier islands tend to show these type of tortoises.